Fiona Bruce.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I rise to oppose new Clause 11 on the basis of its grave implications, indeed threats, to freedom of thought, conscience, speech, belief and assembly. Because let us be clear, new Clause 11 flies directly in the face of these. It has implications far more widely than on abortion alone. It potentially criminalises even those who simply peaceably stand near abortion clinics and who do so mainly on the basis of their faith-based beliefs. I believe this clause does contravene human rights, notably, for example, Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. This includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others, and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship and observance. The broad wording of new Clause 11 is open to such wide interpretation, particularly the words seeks to influence, that it could well catch virtually any activity. The proposed criminalisation of influencing is imprecise, unclear and unpredictable, both in its in effect and potential impact, contravening the basic principle of certainty of the rule of law. Certainty is vital so that citizens can tailor their behaviour and remain within the law's boundaries. Could a social worker advising a confused teenager going to an abortion clinic be seen as influencing within the meaning of this clause and therefore be at risk of criminal liability? This new clause fails the test of certainty and for that reason alone should be rejected. Yes.
I'm really grateful to her and I'm listening very carefully to what she is saying, which I know reflect beliefs of very great sincerity. But does this mean that she is against the existing law that allows local authorities to ban these same activities around abortion clinics, for example, even on a very selective basis? Because it seems to me that the House has already accepted that principle, and if she can't accept that principle, we really are on a different page.
I have spoken against that principle on a number of occasions in this place, and I'll come on to explain why.
Thank you.
The wording of new Clause 11 could even catch those quietly praying. But when did it become against the law in this country to pray? Well, unfortunately, 5 councils have now defined protest as including the word prayer. Indeed, during the course of court proceedings, this has even been confirmed as including silent prayer. This is a very grave development which we in this House, more than anyone, must stand against. It would mean, effectively and staggeringly, criminalising the affairs going on within the privacy of an individual's mind. Yet freedom of thought is an absolute, unqualified right. And as the Minister said only today in an earlier debate, peaceful protest is a fundamental part of UK society. Whatever our individual views on abortion, we must stand against new Clause 11. Otherwise, we risk opening up even more widely the door to discrimination. Why not have buffer zones around political conferences? A young Hong Konger yesterday told me, when she attended the recent Conservative Party conference, that she was, to use her word, scared of accessing the conference centre because of the aggressive behaviour of political opponents around it. And yet there is no suggestion of buffer zones there, nor should there be. And as MPs, we would be aghast if we risked a fine and imprisonment simply for handing out a campaign leaflet containing our political views on the street and seeking to influence others at election time. No, this new Clause 11 is specifically targeted at those with faith-based views, and we should be equally aghast at this. Of course, harassment or intimidation around abortion clinics or anywhere has to be addressed. Although in over a quarter of a century of people quietly gathering around abortion clinics, there have been relatively few, if any, reports of this. But there are already several pieces of legislation which tackle this if needed. The Offences Against the Persons Act, the Public Order Act, the Protection from Harassment Act, the Criminal Justice Act, the Anti-Social Behaviour Crime and Policing Act, and the Police Crime Sentencing and Court Act, passed only this year, all of which provide sufficient powers to tackle harassment and intimidation. And this addresses the point which my honourable friend raised a few minutes ago. Rather than creating new and unnecessary laws, the police and our efforts should be ensuring that they and the prosecution have powers and use them, which they already have. But this clause goes further, potentially criminalising peaceable gatherings. Indeed, it's perfectly possible, looking at the wording of this new clause, to see an argument being made that just one person standing alone, quietly, near a clinic, could be guilty of the proposed criminal offence in New Clause 11. Widely or poorly drafted legislation, as here, can have serious unintended consequences, and we've seen this in recent years. During the pandemic, Rosa Lelo, a 76-year-old grandmother, was arrested, prosecuted and charged for nothing less than praying and walking outside an abortion centre. It took over a year before Merseyside Police Force dropped the charges, noting that her actions were completely within the law. For her, however, the punishment was the process, despite being completely innocent of any wrongdoing. Too often in recent years, the mere expression of unpopular viewpoints has been interpreted, or rather misinterpreted, as automatically being abusive or harassing under the Public Order Act 1986 due to the broad discretionary powers that police have. We must stand against this. We have seen numerous examples of street preachers and others arrested for nothing more than peacefully expressing traditional views in public. When arrested and prosecuted, it is very rare for this to lead to conviction. But by the time they are vindicated, the damage is done. To the individual subjected to a prolonged criminal process, to the public's confidence in policing, and indeed to freedom of speech, since such miscarriages of justice have an abiding, chilling effect, leading many, indeed many thousands of people across our country today to self-censor deeply held views, a problem far more widely than is currently recognised and which will no doubt be exacerbated by this new Clause 11. I'm just about to conclude. One of the main reasons freedom of speech and thought are treasured and rightly protected in law is so they can be used precisely for the purposes of influence. The free and frank exchange of viewpoints. It is the lifeblood of a genuinely democratic society. Rather than seeking to erode this most precious principle, we should be seeking instead to strengthen the law, to put it beyond doubt that freedom of speech and indeed of belief, when peaceably expressed, should never be a criminal offence. We must stand against this here today. Our cherished freedoms of thought, conscience, belief, speech and assembly have been hard fought for, and our democracy depends on their robust protection.